My name is Honorable Chairman. It's circular to the matter that is presented in the floor of the Reps, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just very quickly go through the communication that was sent to the Minister of Finance to give some indication as to what the session is all about. But before that, I'd like to yield the floor for some beginning remarks by my colleague, Chairman Committee on Legislative Compliance, and thereafter, Deputy Chairman Committee on Finance, CPD for Chairman.
Basically, in my what we are really looking for, and which we will expect the Honourable Minister and team to explain to just review on the issue of level of compliance of 2013 application plan. As far as the House of Representatives, as far as we are concerned, application and filing application asked for 2013. And as far as we are concerned, the amendment is yes by this Honorable House. So who wants to do anything now to explain to us as we go along the level of compliance of 2013 application plans?
Minister of the Economy to please shed more light to be able to guide. Thank you.
Follows Chief today, meeting room 301 2 p.m. The Honourable Minister will be required to answer questions in regard to our recent statements on the economy, in addition to a comprehensive meetings to presentation on the following: 1. 2013 budget performance to implementation, in bracket revenue receipts, card back, level of implementation, etc. 2. General outlook of the economy, and 3. Any other relevant matter of the economy. So, we'll look at our agenda. Like to listen to the Honourable Minister of Finance respond to this letter.
There are two programs at AIT. One is an AIT television interview, so it's actually taped, and the other is at an interview that I had on political platform, which is also completely recorded and available to members of the public and members of the committee. So they can actually document every single word I said, because all of it was taped. I think the whole issue began with the interview with on political platform, where pursuant to an article that had been published in this day, I think a week prior to when I appeared, it detailed, they told me detailed all that was in Mr. President's letter accompanying the amendments to the National Assembly. All of it was captured in this day article. And as a result of that, they asked me the question about, what was the impact or the consequence of these various shifts within the budget and the amendments we were asking for. And what I said exactly was that If by September, October, we do not have the amendment passed, it will be very difficult to pay salaries, as 32 billion naira worth of salary payments have been shifted and would need to be restored, because it wouldn't be possible for me to be able to determine how to pay salaries. That was what I said. At no point in time did I mention the word that the economy will crash or anything like that. That was a misleading headline in a newspaper. And I just want to say that I was utterly surprised when I saw that the whole debate had been tabled on the basis of a headline that was incorrect at best and mischievous at worst. So it was a totally incorrect headline. I would not say that. I said exactly what I said, that the inability to pay salaries come September, October would be a problem that we face as a country, and therefore this was the impact as I was asked. So since I'm on tape and on record for the entire interview, I don't have to belabor the point. So I just want to put it on record that that was what was said. And I was very surprised at what the subsequent reaction in terms of the headline. So that headline was totally incorrect, because I never said that. So that's the first thing that I would like to table before the committee. And I don't know if that answers your question with regard to what went on, Honorable Chair.
Yeah, I think what would happen is that
and the vulnerabilities that the economy faces at the moment, which we have to contend. And then I'll go on to some of the other specifics in terms of how much implementation of the 2013 budget has happened, what has happened to constituency projects, and so on. I just want to say that the global economic environment remains challenging. I say that because the Eurozone, which is a major trading partner for us, remains mired in recession. And the prospects for recovery don't look very good. As you know, several of the key countries in Southern Europe, like Spain, Italy, Greece, continue to struggle. And therefore the outlook there is not a very good one. In fact, the Eurozone area is still expected to contract by 0.6%. This 2013. The U.S. is showing signs of some recovery, with a growth forecast of 1.7%, but the recovery is still fragile. Japan is also showing some signs of recovery. Again, the fragility is there. Now, the engines of growth that have driven the global economy, which are the emerging markets, China, Brazil, India, and so on, are all showing signs of stress. I think everybody has followed that China's growth is decelerating, and we just came from China last week. From about 10%, it's gone down to 8%, and we are expecting a forecast of about 7.5% now. The growth for India has declined down to about 5%, and in short, the growth for emerging markets is forecast now for about 5%. So in light of all that, I think that the global environment, as I said, remains quite challenging. Those countries that were depended on to drive global growth are also experiencing stresses themselves, even though China's growth of 7.5% is very robust. But for a country that has been growing at a steady 10% per annum for the past decade or so, this looks like somewhat of a slowdown. This slowdown in growth is accompanied by stresses in terms of youth unemployment in many of these countries. The USA is about 16%, in the UK about 22%, Spain youth unemployment is 52%, that is 1 in 2 young people in Spain is unemployed. In Italy is 36%, Portugal 36%, Belgium 20%, South Africa over 50%. So you can see that this issue of growth, not such a huge growth story accompanied by high unemployment of youth is becoming a problem globally. So in the midst of all this, sub-Saharan Africa as a whole is not doing too badly. It's expected to grow at 5.4%. And some of the fastest growing economies in the world today in sub-Saharan Africa. Whilst growth is not the cure for everything by any means, as we've seen, because you can still have growth with problems of unemployment and so on. But it is, as you see all over the world, this is watched very carefully, because in order to begin to solve some of the problems you have in your economy, you need to have some growth. When there is no growth at all, that means the problems are compounded and become worse than before, which is what you see happening basically and so on. And in that light, Nigeria's growth is still projected at about 6.5% this year, so we continue to maintain our forecast. Actually, the IMF is forecasting 7.2%. They're a bit more optimistic than we are. And we expect to hopefully end the year at about this 6.5%. Our exchange rate remains stable, still within the 155 to 160 band, even though it did slip a little bit outside the band for a short while a week ago, but it's come back. Inflation is declining, and has declined from about 12% to about 9% now. Our external reserves have been growing. Our external reserves were 48 billion, but as the latest information as of July 11th is about 47 billion, so about $1 billion down in reserves, of which the excess food account stands at about $5 billion. Please don't forget that we also have the Sovereign Wealth Fund with about $1 billion in it, which is being actively now invested for the benefit of the country. We actually barrels a day, which we've been saying, everybody knows, it's public, we've been saying it for the past couple of months now, that on the withdrawal of about 400,000 barrels a year poses us a significant challenge, that leads to almost 160 billion naira per month shortfall in terms of expected revenue from our sources. So this is the big vulnerability. We have been managing this vulnerability, and it has been fortuitous that the availability of the excess food account has enabled us to have some drawdowns. This is precisely the reason why the country needs this type of account, and why the country needs to save when it can, so that during any unforeseen or contingency situations, we will not be left flat-footed, and will be able to continue to spend a reasonable amount in order for the budget to run. And this is what has been happening. So we've drawn down on part of the excess food account in order to augment the budgetary resources. Still, I can say that even given the drawdowns, we have about $5 billion in the excess food account. And that is some insurance that will be enough to bolster the economy going forward for another few months. But I must say that we will need to act very decisively on the issue of the theft of crude oil in order to minimize that and restore the quantities and the amounts that are needed to the budget. Of course, which is the large quantities of shale oil and gas which have been discovered in the U.S., so that the U.S. demand for our oil is gone down quite steeply, and but that slack has also been taken up by India as of now, and China still wants more. So we are doing all right as far as that is concerned, but we have to look to the future. When you look to the future, you see that the large quantities of shale oil and gas being discovered all around the world is going to mean substantial increases in supply. And therefore, any economy that is based on oil ought to be looking at two things: how to diversify the economy as fast as possible, and how to use available instruments to manage very prudently in light of these developments. Because you don't want to be at a stage where you're relying on this product and loading everything, and suddenly the price falls like that, and finds you flat-footed and you are unable to make your payment. So those are the two I think, vulnerabilities, but as at now, the most significant one is the vulnerability on quantities. Diversification agenda, trying to move agriculture, and I think we are beginning to see some of the results coming in. We all know how across 10 states in the north, from Kebbi to Zamfara, we have seen 1.1 million metric tons of dry season rice produced, and this is a fact. So not something that we need to be speculating on. So and when we start kicking in with paddy and all that, it portends very well for the fact that we will be able to begin to meet some of our own basic food needs within the country, and the import substitution that the president has been pushing and food self-sufficiency is really beginning to work. It's not only there, but across other sectors, as we presented at the midterm review. We've been able to make substantial achievements. I don't want to repeat what we said at the midterm, but sector after sector, we've got achievements on the economy that is bolstering it and giving it some of the dynamism that you see. Again, that does not mean that we don't have challenges. And the challenges are well known. To use the budget to make investments within the economy to support these various areas where we are trying to diversify and to improve. With this, I'll talk about the budget performance a little bit more in a minute, but I want you to know that both the performance of the Shopee budget, as well as even the monies that are coming in now, are going to go into improving infrastructure within the country. As you know, a part of the $1 billion Eurobond will go to complete the gas pipeline that is taking gas from the east, where it is in surplus, to the west. Construction of the pipeline by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources already began, and this will be completed and be able to fire the power stations that are in the western part of the country that don't have access to gas. Other infrastructure, such as the airports, where we just came back from China, the airport terminals, the resources to begin to construct this, the roads, and so on. Work is ongoing, both from the resources we've got from partners, as well as the resources from the budget. So I just wanted to say that in spite of the challenges that are confronting us now, we have managed to keep the pace of work going. All the colleagues are working to try and make these things happen. Now, in terms of the second quarter released 200 billion, but there were also some other releases which were done through AIEs, and if you go to page 3 of the table that we gave you, Mr. President gave very strict instructions that he wants to make sure that constituency projects are implemented. And as a result, he made certain changes in order to make sure that this is done. The first change was to make the Ministry of Special Duties responsible for overseeing the implementation of constituency projects. Overseeing, because the ministry does not have all the engineers, all the people needed, agriculturalists and so on, to do so. The MPS will still continue to implement the constituency projects, but the Ministry of Special Duties will oversee the projects, and of course, no contractors will not be able to get paid unless they sign the certificate, go sign it, that certify that the work has been done. So they have a lot of oversight power. So that change was made. Mr. President also requested and got a list from the National Assembly of those constituency projects. So we have now a database of the constituency projects by department. And this is very helpful because it enables us to be able to follow. And above all, it gives the Ministry of Special Duties a database with which to work. The third thing the President said is that these constituency projects must be given priority in terms of implementation, and therefore we have to make sure that the resources are made available. And I want honorable members to know, and you can see it on your team, when we released, they made the first releases of capital, we put 30 billion naira, we opened an account, and 30 billion naira was put for constituency projects, and it was divided MDA by MDA. The second release, 20 billion. So there is, as at now, 50 billion available, which is about half, 50% of the 100 billion that is needed for constituency project has been released, and is awaiting utilization. Is in a special account, so it's not mixed up with the monies of the MDAs. It has been removed and is sitting in a special account at the central bank, which the Accountant General opened as at 2nd April. You know, we brought everything so that people can actually see where he wrote the central bank. That may not have started, but I know that most of my guidance, the evidence is produced. The balance of 50 billion, which is the waiting utilization for listen, I think I want to make sure key, which is that you have a ministry that over.
We need to know what to do.
I present an area of opportunity.
Thank you, Hon Minister, for your brief. You made mention of quantity shock with regard to leakages we have in the economy. The number of barrels that being stolen per day is about 400,000 barrels per day, and that amounts to about 160 billion. And we are aware that you are the coordinating minister for the economy. I want to know if you can confirm that there is a contract for monitoring our pipelines to avoid.
Like the Nembe pipeline that takes 100,000 barrels a day. You have 53 punctures and bridges. You know, maybe out of that, I don't know how much is siphoned, assuming a third of oil is siphoned to be stolen. But when they shut down the entire pipeline, that means that 100,000 barrels is not being transferred. It doesn't mean the 100,000 barrels has been stolen. So it's less than that. But the effect, because the pipeline is shut, is that we don't get the income from 100,000 barrels. So I don't want to walk out of here giving the impression that 400,000 barrels has been stolen. No, it's less than that. But because they shut the pipeline, we are not getting that. The same with TransNiger, which carries 120,000 barrels a day. That's also short, and several other pipelines like that. So I just wanted to clarify that.
How have you captured that in the budget, particularly as it affects the favorable variance which we are gotten from there? I want to know the general impact of the introduction of the NP system into the budgetary process. Thank you so much.
You please permit me to engage in the Ministry of Finance to present.
There will be, this restoration, and we understand that it's being looked at, what is ongoing. We don't want to come here to make this a very large subject, but I just want to explain from the part of the executive why we say what we say. Because when you're making a budget, you also have to have revenue. And this is where the issue of supplementary. Usually if you have an additional source of revenue and you want to do additional expenditures, that is where budget practice, you go for supplementary. You cannot come for supplementary when your revenue, rather than increasing, is diminishing. How will you then finance the supplementary? We are just giving a presentation here showing that the country is experiencing this revenue shortfall, which we have not hidden. We have been very vocal in saying it again and again. So on what basis will the supplementary then be put forward? So what we are asking for very clearly is an amendment so that within the monies we have, we can restore part of those monies from projects and from specific items of expenditure that were moved to other parts. That is what we are saying. And that we would not be, for example, if you have a road that where the original proposal brought, and of course the National Assembly says it reserves the right to do that. We are not debating what is in the Constitution. What we are saying is a very practical suggestion. He said, we want the good of Nigeria, so does the executive, so does everybody. And I believe we've been working on this very collaboratively and we should continue. What we are saying is if there is a particular road, you can take some specific examples. Abuja, Bajilokoja Road, for example. Kano Maiduguri. That has a specific amount to continue the work for this fiscal year that was proposed. And that amount is now short by 4 billion, 5 billion or whatever. We are asking, in the original submission, that was the amount. When the appropriation still came back, it was short of that amount. So let me finish. So what we are saying is that if that amount can be restored from wherever it was taken to other categories, that would help continue those major pieces of work. That is really what we are asking, and that's why we are doing the amendments. And that is what Mr. President sent to the House. So I just wanted to explain the context of what we are saying. So it's not saying, we want to spend more on a certain category or even something else that has come up. That's when you will do the supplementary. So that's not what we are asking for, because we don't even have the revenue basis to go for a supplementary. So I just wanted to be very clear. Memos from Budget Office directing non-implementation of constituency projects. That is absolutely not the case. We would like to see those memos, because DG Budget is here. We want to see who wrote the memos. How can a DG Budget go and write a memo directing non-implementation of it when Mr. President has instructed that constituency projects are the priority? So that is not the case. So all these memos purported to be arising from Budget Office, we want to see them so that we can see. Because the other day a colleague told me he received a memo from me asking him to do certain things. And I know I did not write that memo. So let us see these memos to see who actually wrote what was written. So the similar one that says that a memo was written from budget by the DG Budget listing senators' projects. First of all, we don't know which is senator, which is, and it goes to the point that the honorable gentleman was making, saying that we put in, now here's the contradiction. Somebody says senator's project, Rex project belonging to this person and that person. We don't know. We have no clue which one is a senator's project, which is a rep project. We don't know. And that's the essence of what we are saying. So it cannot be, you cannot also say, prove to the world that you put in these projects. Of course the project came in the budget that was signed. But you can see now from the comments on the floor that we don't know which is which. So people saying that we wrote only representing senator's project. I don't know which is a senator's project, which is a rep project. To me, they are all constituency projects from the National Assembly and which we must implement. So I cannot tell which is which. So it would be very strange to say a memo would be written listing one set of projects. So those are some of, I want to make these clarifications that because we do not know which project belongs where, there is no way we would go inside and write a memo and then list and say implement these ones and leave those ones out. We will not be able to tell. And we will not be doing anything like that. Our job is to work with our colleagues to make sure all the projects are implemented.